Alrighty, so Erica, I have a few questions for you. How
Wait, before you
exactly did
do,
you end up? Whoa. Okay, hold on, Jerome. What's up? Start with
Erica,
me.
can you move in a little bit? You're not on camera.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So a few questions for you, Erica. First of all, I know you're a good friend of mine. For those of you guys who don't know, we used to have an office out of the Blockchain Center before this whole shutdown happened. But what exactly got you to be the CEO of one of the only centers in America exclusively dedicated to cryptocurrency and blockchain?
So my path is kind of like I don't know. There's this millennial phenomenon, right, where most people, and it's probably not millennials, where most people who have their degree in something, they don't actually work in that field. So for me, I have a degree in aeronautics from Embry-Riddle University, which is like top aeronautical engineering school in the world, and definitely did not thought that that industry was going to be the industry that I was building in, but it didn't turn out to be that way. I learned about, like I said earlier, I learned about Bitcoin. Didn't buy it, but I learned about it back in 2012, just being surrounded by libertarians and anarcho-capitalists that were interested in having Ron Paul win. Those were probably the first adopters to crypto. And, after Ron Paul lost, it was like I gave up pretty much because people, when you have an abusive relationship, you tend to forget what happened in that relationship because it's just how you cope. And I found out that we all were having an abusive relationship with the state. So, just kind of like brain dumped everything that happened, continued working in the aviation field, continued building my contacts in that world, but I was still interested in Bitcoin. And so I kind of started hosting like meetups in my spare time while I was working in aviation. And it was just kind of for fun. I actually started hosting just meetups like of friends of mine, and we would trade in like a small house in the Miami New Times wrote an article about us, but then eventually I started hosting bigger meetups, so I started hosting Crypto Mondays with Lou. And how that happened was because the company that I had been working for at the time, it was an aircraft leasing company, did over $1 billion in sales, just huge standard aircraft, really great people. And I was getting kind of bored. Like, it was like I couldn't go up any higher in my company. And then this whole like the 2017 happened and everybody was like crazed about it. So I had been telling the people in my company about it and they kind of laughed at me at first, but then the whole blockchain, not Bitcoin thing swept the nation. Because of that, my old employer sent me officially to like San Francisco, to New York, to all these different places to learn officially what the blockchain was about because we knew that it could benefit our business in the aircraft leasing world. And from there, I met a lot of people. It was 2017 and it was still late. It was still very, very early. Like anybody listening right now, it's still early. And so that's where I met James Taft at the time, who was running Crypto Mondays, and the San Francisco Crypto Mondays. Mark, who runs Crypto Mondays in San Francisco, also was like, you should start one in Miami. So I did. And I was just really surprised instantly about how many people came out. It was like our first Crypto Mondays, so many people came out. People were interested. People who knew more than I did came out. And I just kept doing them because I think that it's really important for when people host events. Part of the reason why you do that is because you want to find your tribe. You want to find people who think like you. And so that's what I did. I found people that thought like me. And kind of from there, met Scott. You guys know Scott. Scott is my business partner in opening the Blockchain Center. He had come to a couple of my events, said they were run really well, and I was doing this in my spare time at the time. He and I had just like really wanted to start something bigger. We had both worked for like a news organization for a little bit, a blockchain news organization, which was not really a good move for either of us because that person was not trustable. So Scott and I met and he was like, hey, like, let's start something bigger. Like, I think we have an opportunity because of the reaction that we got when we would host events in Miami, and things kind of snowballed. It was like Miami was looking for a location. I mean, Miami itself, downtown Miami, wants to become the next tech hub for millennials. So because of that, I mean, blockchain's really the only way that's going to happen. Nick Spanos and I have known each other since the days of Ron Paul. He used to run the call centers out of Bellevue, and I
Did not know that.
Yeah, and like I lived in Washington State at the time, so it was like we had met way back then, got reconnected back in this world. Scott was like, we should open up a Bitcoin center. I was like, well, let's talk to Nick about it. We had dinner with Nick in New York, and Nick was like, you know, a lot of people ask me to do this, and I said no, but I think this is a good idea. You know, Nick has known Moshe Mana, and Moshe Mana is like the largest real estate developer in Miami. He's known him for 30 years. They both did huge work in building up New York back in the day. Nick is a pretty big real estate guy. So, yeah, just kind of things snowballed. And I mean, I don't think I could not have done it by myself for sure. I think me as a lead is just because I'm kind of a front person. I like talking. I'm a good communicator. And then, yeah, I mean, women in tech, right? But it's not. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it's not just me. You know, it really is. It's everybody. Like, it's not just me. I don't know how I got here, but I'm happy that I'm here, and I'm really thankful for all the smart people that surround me.
That's quite a story, if I do say so myself. Like, you went from point A to point F, just like within a matter of years, and it's been a really long time for people to build up to where you got. And I mean, it shows you how much just knowing and having communications and good networks to plug into anywhere, you know. A lot of people feel like you have to have a certain, you know, amount of money, or you have to be in a certain place, but it's really like you need to sell yourself. And like, I feel like your story depicts that importance completely.
Yeah, you know, and one of the problems too in this space that sometimes the thing is everybody suffers from imposter syndrome, right? Not just women, not just men, not just people or whatever. Everybody suffers from imposter syndrome. Everybody's like, I don't deserve to be here. And a lot of times I felt like that because I don't code, you know, like I made my own Zanga page and I like coded my own MySpace back in HTML, like when I was like a teenager, but that's the basis of it, you know. Like there are a lot of people who are technically more savvy than me, but you know, the thing about the blockchain space, and I tell this to young people all the time, is that we need all aspects, right? We need people like Bits and Tokens who, you guys tell a story, right? You guys edit videos and you make these ways for people to actually conceptualize like what's going on. And then there are the developers who make sure that our Bitcoin blockchain is running smoothly and safe and that, you know, there's no bugs in the system. And then there's like a lot of blockchain companies that really benefit off people who are better at marketing and sales, right? Like what's the, so definitely we need every single aspect. And just because I'm not technical, I understand how Bitcoin works and I can explain it really well to people, and that helps. So you're right, like positioning yourself, like don't let like little fake, I have a degree in this or I don't have a degree in this hold you back, because most of what they're teaching you anyways in school is not going to help you in your actual career.
Yeah, I'm so want someone to testify. I have a 4 degree that I do not use. Your own same thing, and it happens, you know. Health administration. Go ahead, Patrick.
Wow. Okay. I'm the only person here that didn't actually go to traditional schooling for college. I just streamed a lot of information on Coursera.com, got some certifications, and
wow, Patrick.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this guy knows more about the tech beneath Bitcoin than all three of us combined.
So Patrick,
but that's besides the point. Like spokespeople.
Go ahead.
Oh, spokespeople are really important. But you were saying, Erica.
You probably also have more debt than 3 of us combined because you didn't go to traditional college.
Facts, yeah.
I mean, less debt. I don't know. I said more or less. But...
Yeah, less debt. Yeah,
sure. Yeah, less
debt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So, real quick, let's talk about some current events, because there's a lot of current events going on in the crypto space. This morning, as we saw, the price of Bitcoin, it took a little bit of a dip. And that could be due to, I don't know, the price of oil being negative 37% or $37, whatever it was, some crazy number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cheaper to just give away oil right now than it is to actually sell it.
You know, it is. You're right. More so because of the future settlements. And as we all know, the U.S. dollar is being utilized as a form of petrodollar. Literally, people are doing trade in oil with dollars specifically, especially through multinational corporations. Disregarding the BRICS, of course, the BRICS nations. So this is actually a point in time where the dollar isn't really valued by energy because energy is virtually worthless. They're not trying to take delivery of these oil barrels, so they're literally just demonetizing them. It's a little extreme to me, but
it is very extreme.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked too much, honestly, into the whole oil dropping below $1, which I just thought I saw a lot of people tweeting about it on Twitter, but to me, I mean, it what's interesting about that is that so we used to be in all of the Middle Eastern countries because we wanted their oil, right? That was the excuse that we heard time and time again, was that we were in Iraq, we were in Afghanistan because they had oil and we wanted it. In Saudi Arabia, the reason why I had such good relationships with them is because of oil. Now, because OPEC ended in, 2017, 2018, as of this year, the U.S. is a number one producer in crude oil. And so that's never happened before. Now the U.S. is number one, and now these oil prices drop. Now there's a lot of speculation as to why that's happening. I mean, energy. The fact is that this is kind of good for Bitcoin, right? Because halving happens, people's costs of production in terms of verifying the blockchain, they should go up, but they actually are going to go down now because the cost. I mean, it depends on how you mine it, though, right? If you're mining via oil, then it would be actually beneficial for you.
It'd be really cheap.
Yeah, it'd be really, really cheap. And I'm sure that most of the people, like, the thing is about Bitcoin, too, is that everybody complains that Bitcoin is a problem because it sucks up so much energy. But it's like Bitcoin really is the only thing that incentivizes clean energy production. I mean, before Bitcoin, they would just, I think the methane gas off of mining oil, what they would do is they would just like get rid of it, right? And it would cost them millions of dollars to get rid of it in a good way. But now they use that extra methane and they mine Bitcoin. So, I mean, Bitcoin just incentivizes green energy production. But in terms of the price of oil falling, like, I don't know what that means, but I know that from my perspective, you know, there's a scripture, and it's so funny because, like, I do think that, I don't think I've shared this with you guys before, but, like, I do think that we're in the end times. I do think that a lot of what's, like, written about in the Bible, specifically, like, Revelation, the book of Revelation, and the signs that are happening in the end, I do think that those are happening. And I remember I had a dream once, and basically, there is it's like the fourth seal, or the third seal, and it's scarcity. And what it says is that, you know, that the price of goods are going to go up, the price of food is going to go up, but the price of oil and the price of wine is not going to be harmed. So I just think it's really interesting that this is what's actually playing out, if the price of oil is not being harmed.
Yeah, not just South Africa, that's in Las Vegas as well. But doubling down on
really,
yeah,
I didn't know
happening
that.
here now.
That's crazy, guys. We're getting eaten by locusts.
Yeah, it's really bad in certain areas. But just adding on to the revelations and the price of oil and wine. I mean, it depends on who you're looking at from that perspective. For us as consumers, great, price of oil is dropping really, really low. Woo-hoo, you know, go get some gas. But for the business owners who are making, you know, who are extracting the oil and then needing to sell this, because there's so much production yet no demand because people aren't driving anywhere due to this epidemic, then it leaves them at a point where it's like, what do I do? Store the oil, sell the oil, or shut down my factory?
You're right.
What happened?
Definitely. Totally. You're right about that, Jerome. But may I elaborate? It's not just the fact that nobody's driving. It's the fact that the entire global economy is at a standstill. Mm-hmm. Typically, majority of everything that you consume and have in your home was transported there by oil. Not So not only that, like it's not just people not necessarily driving. It's just literally nobody's really spending. Consumption is at an all-time low. So it all comes down to the entire market as a whole. It's a global picture of what's really going on behind the scenes. Now, stocks may be really high, but there's a disconnect whenever the economy is actually at a standstill. So let's not forget about the people that are going to be affected by this whenever the factories do shut down. And of course, how these old barrels of oil are going to be stored irresponsibly because of the price being so low. And who knows how long we'll be sitting for? I mean, this is a global pandemic. Who knows how long this is going to last? So, yeah.
I'm seeing reports that social distancing might need to last until. It sucks, but I mean, I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'd rather know that, there's a vaccine that's out there. I'm not all for vaccines, and I get the anti-vax movement, but this is definitely something that I'd be more serious about. Yes, I understand that there's a large amount of people that die from the flu and all these other things that are going on in the world, but what people aren't understanding is how easy this virus spreads. H1N1, people are now affected. I think last I saw we're at 2 point something, almost 3 million cases, and well over 50,000 deaths. That's really fast considering this started December? 4 months, 5 months now. Yeah, so I mean, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's this. If it is, even if it does spread faster, though, I probably had coronavirus. Every single one of my family members in Washington have probably had coronavirus at some point, and we all got over it. So it's like, I mean, I understand also, like, we're young. Like, I have a pretty good immune system, like Asians typically do, right? But I just think that, like, regardless, first of all, I don't believe the official numbers. There are so many doctors that are coming out whistleblowing right now saying that the reason that their hospital gets a financial incentive